All right, so welcome everyone to Payments in Asia, No Cards, No Problems. My name is Upton Saidi. I am a journalist with CNBC and I'm currently in Hong Kong. And so we're going to be exploring over the next half hour the digital payment revolution we're seeing. Now, a lot of people have said that adoption could accelerate further in the wake of the current COVID-19 crisis, which is triggering a sharp rise in digital payments. We all know about the enormous success of platforms like Alipay and WeChat in China, but Southeast Asia is one of the most populous regions and economically dynamic growth zones where we're seeing the shift toward digital payments. The trend is still in its early stages, but today we're going to hear from Lucy and Russell about how they're working in the region. So let's just get started and have Lucy introduce herself, tell us where you are and a little bit about what you do.
Hi everyone, my name is Lucy and I'm the co-founder of Air Wallets. We are a, new generation fintech that is transforming the way that businesses move and manage their money globally. We have a very big presence in APAC, so China, Southeast Asia, and Australia. We currently have an office in Singapore, Hong Kong, and a few other Asian cities. So it'll be interesting to, talk about the digital payments and how it has revolutionized how people trade across the border, as well as, trends that we're seeing in the market and how it would evolve in the future.
Wonderful. And we just found out, unfortunately, Russell will not be able to join us due to something that just came up, an emergency, it seems like. So it'll just be you and I today. So why don't we get in, jump right in. And I want to know, first and foremost, how is the work that you're doing in Southeast Asia? How has that changed this year alone, given the pandemic? I mean, we see the reports that, this could accelerate digital payments because people are afraid of using cash or people are going to be distancing more from each other. But is that so far true?
So I think I would say that it's definitely true that, businesses and individuals are becoming more digitalized. So if you think about remote working and online education and those type of gig economy industry businesses, so we've seen at least 20 to 30% uplift in their activities, particularly during COVID, because people are more active online and also spending more time just online in general. So a lot of the difficulties and challenges with payment itself in Southeast Asia is actually physical infrastructure. So, lacking physical branches, people are not banked. So adoption of wallets and other type of digital payments has been very high. And I think, people being home and just looking for alternative ways of making money and trading definitely has sort of, COVID has an impact on how people in general make payments.
Wonderful. And have you seen the past few months as an opportunity then, or has it been more of a challenge because, consumer spending is down? If you look at a market, they're seeing, the most historic decline in GDP. So, how do you balance? Is this a net gain for the business or a net loss?
So I think in the very early stage of COVID, we've been doing a lot of analysis. So for e-commerce and for travel in general, definitely there's been a hit because nobody's traveling anymore. But like I said, similarly looking at online education and digital and live streaming, gaming, those type of very digital native businesses. There's been an increasing activity, so we're actually been investing more resources in these areas so that we can basically ride on an opportunity and trying to develop some applications and products that are fit for these type of user cases.
And which markets specifically are the most robust and the most exciting to you right now?
In terms of geography or in terms of
in terms
industry?
of like
in terms of where people
Geography.
are.
Yeah.
So I think definitely because Philippines has a very large community of English teachers. So in that part that we actually saw more payments into Philippines to these teachers because of people being more doing their education online, particularly in China and generally in Southeast Asia. And but whereas if you're looking at very like travel and e-commerce heavy countries, for example, looking at Singapore, because of the prolonged lockdown, it's definitely been slowing down a little bit. But I think a lot of traditional businesses also made the transformation to be more digital and more online as well, because they're not able to conduct most of their financial and other types of activities offline. So yeah, so I think in a way, the past few months definitely pushed a lot of traditional businesses to be more active online, as well as a few sectors that probably got a bit of an acceleration as a result of physical distancing and quarantine and people being in lockdown.
Wonderful. And talk to me because, the payment service provider space seems to be growing, quite rapidly. So tell me what differentiates AirWallex and how have you been able to grow, so much in 5 years?
So I think AirWallex is very much about the end-to-end and easy to integrate solutions. So we actually power a lot of non-financial platforms to be able to offer financial services, especially payments to their end users and their merchants. So I think that is one main difference that AirWallex has compared to like a purely payment focused or remittance focused company. And we're able to basically serve businesses anywhere from like SME size all the way up to large scale multinational enterprises because of our very robust and very sophisticated infrastructure and payment engine. And I think down the track, we're very much about collaboration as well. So like I said, empowering other non-financial platforms and financial platforms to better serve their target market and also their target user. So yeah, I think that's what makes us different. And also, I think in terms of operation, we're very active in multiple markets as opposed to just one country. So yeah.
Wonderful. And I noticed you guys have raised, a good amount of funding, just most recently your Series D in April. And your investors include, Tencent, Sequoia, China. So how has the recent tensions amongst technology between China and the U.S., does that concern you at all, or is that kind of operating at a in another space that you don't anticipate impacting your growth in business?
Yeah, so I think in our particular space, it's not, I guess, as a big of a concern compared to a few other technology sectors. And we're very much about, openness, and we work with, we work with companies in different countries, regardless of their physical location and, headquarters. So we're very, I guess, much aware of, shifts in regulations and, how different regulators might perceive companies like ours and our general industry. But I think in general, so far, the regulators have been still quite open about, the cross-border and about, financial innovations and different type of, businesses in the payment space.
What are 2 or 3 countries here in Asia that you think are doing it right, that are doing it really well in terms of the future of payments, in terms of regulation, especially? What are the markets that are really just like, you're bullish on?
So I think definitely Singapore is probably quite active and in terms of MAS different push on initiatives to, because I think at the end of the day, like Singapore is still seen as the financial hub for Southeast Asia, and most of the global banks are there. In terms of talent, we have a great deal, a lot of different talents in Singapore for financial sort of fintechs and traditional finance as well. And also, I think just because of most of our customers are actually very active in the Greater China area, I do think China is still leading the way in terms of actually consumer and business payments, especially with the ecosystem that Alipay and WeChat Pay have built. One is more focused on social, consumer facing, and one is more focused on business. So I think regulators are very aware of what is going on, and I think as long as there's transparency and there's openness in what people do, a lot of the times the regulators are actually quite welcoming of new things that are happening.
And for those in the audience who have questions, please type them in the box, and we'll send them. We'll get them to Lucy. So, if we do think of China as the first, as setting the tone in terms of digital payments, the way they have with going cashless, with, as you mentioned, Alipay and WeChat Pay. What are the next trends? I mean, what are we seeing? I assume you haven't touched cash in months. I know many people that I speak to in mainland China don't even bring their wallets. They'll go weeks without knowing where their wallet is because they just, as long as they have their phone, that's even replacing keys quite rapidly as well. So what is the next trend? What should we look out for next?
I think just because we are in the B2B space, I would say there's still a lot of room for improvements, because working with, traditional and new, cross, I guess, businesses, most of them are still very heavily reliant on banks and very traditional types of financial services, anything from like a lot of paperwork or going to a branch to sit down with a relationship manager to discuss what you need. So I think looking at new business models that are sort of emerging in the market, people will or businesses will eventually move towards a more integrated system, because everything basically these days can be offered as an API service. And that is actually what is interesting, because then you can create a very integrated and seamless experience. And so, for example, to give like any e-commerce these days to operate at scale, they would need some automated solution to make their payments, to exchange different currencies, and also to collect money. And it then needs to reconcile with their accounting system, provide different type of data. And that is, I guess, what is interesting to me, because the ability to be able to have that end-to-end experience and also have data to help your future expansions and business needs is something that offline and traditional type of financial services can't. It's something that they can't offer.
Okay, great. And I want to talk a little bit about, the crypto space, because, you guys are gaining ground just as there's potentially going to be, more and more growth and movement in that space. There's been talks, with Libra, and but still, the US dollar by far dominates the financial markets internationally in terms of international payments. So, where do you stand with that? I mean, are you bullish on some of these alternative currencies getting into the market, or do you really anticipate the US dollar kind of remaining most prevalent?
Um, I think in terms of like, I think a lot of times people might confuse like digital currencies in general with cryptos, because a lot of I guess governments are actually looking at going cashless and going towards the digital currency space. But in saying that, it's still government issued, and a lot of times it's just difference in the settlement system, difference in how the I guess fundamental infrastructure works. That differs at the end of the day with cryptos, because I think I'm still quite skeptical about cryptos in general, just because of the different compliance and different, I guess, volatility challenges associated with it. We don't have any business in cryptos, and we don't currently have, I guess, any research in the space as well. So I can't really comment. But yeah, so I think I do still think cryptos or not, it's really a different space to digital payments.
And do you think that, I think right now something like 88% of financial international transactions are made in US dollar. Do you think that will continue, or do you think there's potential for another currency to take some of that?
I think not another currency to take some of that, but more, I think there will be less currencies in general. So there won't be as many currencies in the future. But I think, I also think that, for international trade, people might always prefer their local currencies as opposed to using US dollar as the standard currency. And platforms like AirWallet and other FX providers can actually help them to achieve that. Yeah, so I think the trend might be more local currency, but I wouldn't say less US dollars. Just in general, I do think US dollar is still quite dominating at the moment.
Okay, great. And in terms of funding, I want to know, because you guys were able to secure a round most recently in April, amid a time where there's a lot of people very, very hesitant on investments and funding. So, how did you buck the trend? What is your pitch to investors?
So we actually started the fundraising before COVID hit. So a lot of the conversations and due diligence was taking space prior to basically January this year. So I think we're quite fortunate that our investors are still still believes in the industry itself. So that, in saying that, I do think some industries might be heavily hit, and capitals are very limited in certain industries. But I don't think investors in general are not active. They're still investing and they still have funds to invest. But obviously our pitch has been that, we did our analysis, COVID it's a temporary effect, and it's not going to be I guess a permanent change to how AirWallet operates, as opposed to, I guess, COVID probably permanently changed a few industries this year, as we have seen. So I guess, yeah, we were quite worried for a moment about not being able to close this round, but we did close it, and I guess we're quite fortunate in that sense.
And what are the big priorities right now with this new round in terms of the business and growing the business? In which regions are you looking at? And
so in terms of region, we are still quite invested in our US and European expansions, because we've been quite APAC focused for the past few years. And also in terms of product, so previously we've been very focused on bank account and so like bank account based transactions, so collecting and payout to bank accounts. And now we're expanding to other digital endpoints. So we now have a payment gateway under development. So we're going to be doing payment acceptance for cards as well as wallets very soon. And we also launched a virtual card solution for businesses earlier this year, which allows them to better manage how they make payments via cards, and also offers them the flexibility of creating and also managing accounts online.
Wonderful. And we're getting an audience question from Peter. He wants to know, what is Airwallet's growth plan for the Australian market? I know you guys were founded in Melbourne.
Mm-hmm. So we do still have a very big anchor office in Melbourne. So we have a very big product and development team there. Actually, most of the new products we launched this year has been Australia first. So we now have a zero integration targeted at the Australian customers as well. The card has been first launched in Australia as well. So we're very interested in how we can better help the Australian businesses in general, just because one, we're founded there, and two, we know the market very well. And three, I think is a very good testing ground for any new initiatives, because we're fully licensed and it's a good sized, I guess, economy, and with very a lot of diversity as well. So yeah, we still have a lot of plans for Australia.
Okay, wonderful. And then in terms of competition, I know Ping Pong Payments is based in Hangzhou, and then you also have Stripe, which has made inroads globally. How do you kind of differentiate yourself from some of those?
I guess with Ping Pong specifically, I think they're targeted only at a small portion of our general customer base. So they mainly help Amazon and e-commerce merchants retrieve their money from platforms, whereas we are a lot more than just that, and we have different product offerings, and we're able to service very large scale customers as opposed to just SMEs and sellers. So I think this is similar to our previous discussion about how do we differentiate. And so I think, our infrastructure really allowed us to have a lot of opportunities in different spaces, and we're able to build different applications and products without restricting ourselves to one product line or one region or only one customer type. And in general, I think that is quite unique in the market. And also our heavy presence and capabilities in Asia is very unique as well. Most of the European and US-based fintechs don't have very sophisticated infrastructure in Asia, and also they don't have as much of a, I guess, local understanding as us as well.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Well, is there anything else that we didn't discuss that you want to get in there? You think there's an important trend you're watching?
Well, I guess would be interesting to. I think we just got another question in the audience as well.
Yeah, Maurice, it's a good
how do you see in Africa? Well, I think Africa is an interesting market for us, as again, it's similarly, it's a developing market. There are a lot of fragmentation in the market as well. But we do have priorities. So I think for us, it's not a priority at the moment, just because we're only 450 people team. We can't possibly be and doing everything. So we're mindful of the developments, but we don't currently have anything on the roadmap for Africa.
Okay, wonderful. So Yeah, anything that we didn't discuss that you want to get in there that you find important related to the future of payments?
No, I think we've pretty much covered everything, but we are actively looking for, partners as well, whether in fintech or not fintech, to better collaborate and add values to our customers. So if anyone's interested, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or drop me an email. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time and sharing some insights, and best of luck to you, and hope we can meet again, maybe in person, and continue the conversation.
Yep.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Take care. Thank you, Lucy. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.